Better leave it to the professionals.
Blessed by Bundy, blah, blah, blah.
Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've been goated when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink, I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Car era lore. Call me Levi playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one, I'm about to get that. Crash that whip for the drumsticks, whiplash. I'm about to get them all. Are you with that? In a white boat, surrounded by blue. I want one, but I got a cop too. I wanna fly high in the sky, arms out wide, trying to soar from a bird's eye view. I'm on fire, Ricky, Bobby, cracking the pavement, Whitney, Bobby. I'm a Saki bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Bruce Wayne been a dog, and I keep it 101, cause I'm feeling kinda spotty. You sipping on some rock, and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck is the
Started off with a
blockchain.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
NFT, Twitter, blockchain. Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like LeBron James. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. Refuse not falling for the FOMO. Listening to Coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they loco. I ain't never gonna stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum NFTs. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I gotta shout out
Started
the
off with a
party.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Breaking the mood to choose one, but they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in suits. Yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, miny, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. I had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. So I had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the drive with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin, where we dive into all things crypto, NFTs, Web3, and cutting-edge technology. Remember, nothing here is financial advice. Early-stage tech can be exceptionally volatile and risky. So grab your coffee and join Cap and Steve for today's conversation.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain GM. Thanks so much for joining us. If you haven't done so, do us favor, drop some GM in the chat down below, then head up top, smash that like, repost, and bookmark on the space. We greatly appreciate it. Warms up the algo and does us a real solid. Quick mic check if I could. I got it like last second there of the intro song. It cut out on me for like 3 seconds. I think everything is fine, but just double check outputs. If you, once the lag gets through to the audience, if you give me a thumbs up or 100, just let me know you can hear everything okay on spaces. It would be greatly appreciated. And then I see RDL over in the YouTube chat. Looks like we're good to go on audio spaces. YouTube abstract, if you could let me know we are good. RDL says yes, thumbs up. And just waiting on Teacher Katie or Buchin there over in abstract to let us know the same. But I think if we're live on YouTube, we should be live on abstract as well. So we will get rolling here. Hope everyone had an awesome holiday weekend. Enjoyed your Christmas. We were live audio only on Thursday and Friday. If you missed us, back to our regularly scheduled program today. We'll be doing full week, 8 a.m. We may go, we'll see how the week plays out. We may go a little bit lighter on the first, just depending on what the news looks like, what the audience looks like, with it being, I suspect many of you, myself included, will be up a little later on New Year's Eve, watching the Buckeyes win. Certainly, I'm sure that's what at the top of everyone's mind. Speaking of football, not Buckeye related, but we got a quick quote open. I got like 60 seconds left to quote open. So I got to hit on the man, the myth, the legend. I mean, I can't even say his nickname on the show, but the one and only Mr. Brock Purdy gave me hope. I thought I was pretty much drawing dead in my dynasty league, my 20-year plus dynasty league. Defending champs. It's just a super competitive league. It was 16 teams. We whittled down to 14, but it is like extremely deep rosters, taxi squads, salaries. Like it's super nerd fantasy football. And won last year, would be my first back-to-back ever championship. I'm in the finals this year. Started off with a pretty bad showing on Thursday night. Had Amon Ra and Justin Jefferson, which in a 14-team dynasty league, it's two stud wide receivers. They combined for like 22 points, and playing against Puka and Olave, and Olave, by the way, is beating me, or is the biggest score I'm going up against. Anyways, going into last night, got a pretty good trio of QBs, Goff, Purdy, and Stafford, and I've been streaming them all year pretty well. I didn't hit it perfect, but I got most of Stafford's blow-up weeks. I've got Purdy last week. I went Purdy this week because I couldn't be bull posting Purdy for the last couple of weeks and not ride him in the finals. And it was birthday. He had turned 26th over the past week. So birthday Purdy in the finals, also playing against Puka. So I didn't want to cancel out Stafford there's just no scenario where Stafford goes off and Puka doesn't also go off. So long story short, I fell asleep last night, woke up to a glorious replay of Purdy just going off once again. 24 for 33, 303 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 2 more rushing touchdowns. The man is elite. I've been saying it, and he continues to prove me right. Maybe the best run ever for a fantasy football playoffs. The last 3 weeks have just been absolutely incredible. 10 touchdowns the last 2 weeks combined. Here's where we sit going into tonight. I know everyone is also just like sitting on the edge of your seats. Can't wait to see how this turns out. We've got 1,414 points. So it's think of this league, the scoring is like a 10x. So it's like the equivalent of like 141 points. Pretty good week. Barkley didn't do much. J. Jeff and Amon Ra didn't do much. McBride did his normal McBride output as the best tight end in the league. I had Kittle going into last night, and fortunately picked up Tonga's earlier in the day to just in case Kittle sat. Kittle did sit. Tonga's responded. Pretty solid performance from any tight end, let alone a backup. And Purdy, and this is a flex league, so I could have went 2 running backs or 3 wide receivers, but decided to sit Mason, Wilson, wasn't going to play Cooper Kupp, Mechie. Olamide also was out last night for being sick, but Purdy in his 500 point, or equivalent of like a 52 point for regular fantasy scoring, brought me back, gave me hope. We're now leading. This is the team I'm playing in the finals. So it called 141 to 133, up about 8 points heading into the night. I do have Harrison Mevis, the Rams kicker. The only player left on my opponent, who I've got a slight lead on, is Puka Nacua. So a sweat nonetheless. I'm a dog still, but not. I assumed I would be going down tonight and was going to need the kicker to outscore Puka. The fact that I have a slight lead, and because the 49ers win, the Rams are no longer playing for anything. Like in last week in the fourth quarter, when they were leading that game, they were playing for a 1 seed in the division and the 1 seed. Now the 1 seed, regardless of the Rams outcome tonight, is coming down to the 49ers Seahawks game this coming Saturday. So Rams playing, I guess they might be playing for a seed, and Puka's also playing for the receiving title. So I'm still a dog, but there's hope. It makes tonight's sweat a fun one. And thank you, Mr. Brock Purdy. That's it. That's all I've got for quote open material today. Poppy, I saw you jumped up, but it's giving me the X glitch. Looks like you're on stage, but doesn't look like you're on stage. Now that doesn't mean anything to most of you, but GM, if you can hear me. I don't think so. Maybe take a quick lap if you can hear. It shows you the speaker. Now you're back at the listener, so I figured. But again, in all seriousness, hope everyone had an awesome holiday weekend. I ate way too much and had another breakfast this morning. I think I'm going to have to fade breakfast the rest of the week. I need to this is my challenge, is I've been getting fed these delicious breakfasts as of late. And I'm normally a faster. Normally I don't eat lunch until like 1 or 2 o'clock. I don't eat dinner. And then, I won't eat from, we'll say at the late dinner, even it'll be like 7 o'clock at night. I won't eat again until like 1, 2 the next day in the afternoon. And now that I'm on this breakfast kick, I'm just feeling all kinds of full, like 24/7. I prefer the leaner feeling. There we go. I think I got it working now. Looks like X is back. But if you haven't done so, again, give us a quick like, repost, a bookmark on the space. Greatly appreciate it. Warms up the algo. Does us a great solid. We are live over on Abstract as well as YouTube. All those are pinned up top. And as always, never any financial advice in the show. Crypto's risky, NFTs are risky. Don't do this for any financial advice. Just from some fun, some information, maybe a little bit of education along the way, some fantasy advice. I hope we started Brock Purdy and fade Puka Nacua tonight. We're rooting for punts and field goals, and that will be it. Before we get into news of the day, trending topics, and we have a lot. What a weekend. We'll say crypto adjacent. Financial markets for sure, and interesting stuff nonetheless. But before we get into all that, let me first give some love to the art, courtesy of the one and only Imlo. The holiday badge, you've got a couple more days to mint this thing. If we do any giveaways, we're probably going to do it on the 31st. So maybe some foreshadowing there. Do with that what you will. No any expectations. Just go mint this to show you've been here throughout the holiday week when everyone else checking out, taking time off. Show that you, even if you took a day or two off, show that you're at least riding with us through the holidays. You can head to op.xyz/claim. That's op.xyz/claim and mint their code is CWC Holiday. I'll also drop it in the chat here in 1 second. And shout out to everyone who's minted. I think we're approaching 100 mints, which through the holiday season, not bad. op.xyz/claim and code CWC Holiday or direct link below should also work. We'll get that pinned up top here in about 10 seconds. Go get that before you get on with your day. Would love for you to hang out the whole show with us. Again, a big news. I think today is going to be interesting. I think today is going to be or not. Trying to think the order of operations to go with these headlines this morning. You get a little bit of foreshadowing in the pin post up top. One in from the holiday code. Allegedly, a bank collapsed last night. It's still rumored, and it doesn't look like it is confirmed per the AI overlords and them doing some additional research. But I'm just going to start with this one because it is just a rumor and not really much else to say on it other than, hey, there's a rumor. So let me pull up the actual post and we'll get into the alleged bank collapse. Silver futures surged to a record $83 and then plunged 10% in minutes. That's odd. Interesting. And then we had around that same time, David Parker puts out a post that says a bank just went under. As this story is written, it's 11:01 a.m. Eastern time. So this is last night, and December 28th. So last night, 11 a.m. Eastern yesterday. I thought I first read this I first read this post as it was 11 p.m. last night. It was actually 11 a.m. yesterday when this was reported. It says a systematically important bank, a major player in silver futures, failed to pay its margin call by 2 a.m. and was liquidated by the futures exchange at 2:47 a.m. U.S. time. The reports are concealing the name of the bank, but it's confirmed that overnight the Federal Reserve was forced to pump another $34 billion into the banking system through its emergency overnight repo facility. This $34 billion on top of the $17 billion, which had to be pumped in 2 days ago on Friday morning. The bank involved is described as one of the largest players in the precious metals derivatives market, blew past every risk limit, breached every covenant, and exhausted every line of credit. Again, this is a rumor. I'm not trying to incite any run-on banks this morning, nor do I have that power anyways. I think it's interesting that this comes out with the dramatic 10% drop in silvers in minutes, silver futures in minutes. And will be interesting to see what comes of this today. Either the rumors will be dispelled or things could get really interesting this week. So that was kind of like the first, wasn't the first, that was a piece of news. And again, thinking order operations here, because kind of two ways we can approach this, the rest of the conversation. I'll show you the silver chart if you missed it. it was also interesting to say the least. Um, looking for the chart. Yeah, here we go. Wild. Looks like a meme chart, or I guess as of late a Bitcoin or ETH chart on Monday morning at 9:30 a.m. This posted at 8:04. Oh, it was updated at 8:04 a.m. today. Breaking silver extends losses to drop below $74 an ounce, now down 12% from its high seen just 12 hours ago. The chart is one for the history books. So you saw the massive run up, even got a God candle, followed by this immediate death candle, another pump up, another sell off. We're down to, again, $74 an ounce, down from it wicked up to $84 an ounce, which, if we're talking 74 cents to 84 cents on a meme coin, no big deal. It's like another day in the office. We're talking silver. Yeah, that just, you combine this with the potential bank going under, shaping up to be an interesting streets in the market. To further compound things, I know we're getting a little hot and heavy here off the bat. What do you mean the bank is out of silver? Is it Bill's house or Fred's house? Yeah, right. Bank not out of silver, but they were playing the futures game apparently and got margin called. So here is, if you were on X this week and you saw it, if you haven't been on X, I'll show you here in a second, one of the most viral posts of all time on this app. Last I looked, I think it was over 110 million views. A expose interview from Nick Shirley, who has since this viral post created a account on Zora or on Base and one or two or three meme coins over there. I think raked in about 40K in royalties, which based on this 100 million plus posts, he might get that in just Elon bucks alone. This, when I say order of operations and where I don't know exactly which direction to go next in terms of the order of operations, because I actually think both they're not related, but I think they are related. And that's going to be my, I guess, alpha on the show, I guess, take on the show. Before I get into the Nick Shirley piece, where he exposed over $100 million in Somalian daycare fraud in Minnesota. Yes, you heard that right. Over $100 million in Somalian daycare fraud in Minnesota. It's awful. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm near certain of it. I've already had, I mean, you've also seen on the timeline from the state of Washington to over 500 Somalian daycares with no addresses, like just crazy stuff. You're also talking about an industry that's supposedly or supposed to be pretty regulated. A lot of reporting, a lot of auditing, and it just doesn't happen by accident. This is not just people making mistakes or missing. Like, it is hard for me to believe this is not without actual fraud at a government level at some spot. I'm not saying at what level, I don't know, but we've already seen it following the report from the Minnesota fraud. We've seen reports from Washington State, as I mentioned, 539 Somali language child daycares. Maybe some of them are legitimate. Most of them that they don't even have a street address or a working telephone number. Probably not a legitimate daycare. Same thing in Columbus. I have friends in Columbus, Ohio. There's been rumors of Somalian fraud and stuff going on in Columbus, Ohio for quite some time as well. Seemingly now, it's probably not just rumors. And this is not, I have nothing against Somalian people. It's just stating factual information that's come out over this weekend. And maybe is disgusting to me, my personal viewpoint on this. This isn't a right or left thing. This isn't a Republican or Democrat thing. This is a rampant fraudulent ring that likely is things like this are occurring on both sides. I'm not saying the politicians are the ones committing the fraud. In some cases, they probably are. It's going on. There's no consequences thus far. Now, there has another fraud case in Minnesota also is for a food, not Feeding America. That's actually, I think, a good one. Hopefully, another food drive organization has been, the feds investigating and like 50 some arrests and millions. Like, it's like the trust, speaking for myself, the trust in the US systems, the governments, the organizations, the entities that oversee this stuff has eroded to near zero. It's really, really bad. And to me, what's more damning, what makes me not lose hope, but again, just have really disgust is the word I come to, is you have this expose that's hard to dispute at this point, and we're not seeing any of the, I haven't seen yet, any of the mainstream media run with this. And this is clearly captured attention. Like I said, it's one of the most viral posts ever on this app. I will pin it up top in a second. It's long. It's like 42 minutes. So don't go run away and watch it now. But as of right now, 110 million views, and the TLDR, here's the full 42 minutes of his crew exposing Minnesota fraud. This might be one of his most important work yet. We uncovered over 110 million in one day. Like it shared around like wildfire. It's time to hold these corrupt politicians and fraudsters accountable. We all work way too hard and pay too much in taxes for this to be happening. The fraud must be stopped. The fraud must be stopped. I agree. It is disgusting. And it's not just this. At the same, like simultaneously, there was a report in California that I believe the DA, let me, I don't want to misquote here. Let me get the correct numbers. Because this was I believe that the California district attorney talked about how many billions of dollars that have been lost in taxpayer dollars. Like, it's unacceptable. The states, federal governments, municipalities, they should not be losing millions, let alone billions, let alone tens of or hundreds of billions of dollars. If they were any private entity, they're fired and probably getting criminal charges thrown at them. Like, someone needs to be held accountable for this stuff. And until that happens, I've got like real concern, genuine concern for our country. It's an awesome country. There's a lot of great things here. This just makes no sense to me that this stuff continues to go on. You hear about it time and time again, and seemingly no one gets in trouble, not even hand slapped.
Cap, am I up here?
Yeah, we got you now. Give me a second. I'll finish this thought and land the plane.
Yeah, I know you're good. You're good. I just want to make sure I was up here. You're good.
It disgusts me. Like, this is how I genuinely feel. We're gonna tie this all to crypto markets and longing degeneracy, and why I think part of this that we're seeing at a government level, at all levels, not shouldn't say all, at a lot of levels, it's like I'm in my mid 40s. I've not done. I've got things I need to accomplish in life, but I've done okay. I've got a by most traditional standards, a successful life. I'm happy. I'm excited about my future. I'm not worried about AI taking my job. I don't like. I am very empathetic to other people. Even myself, my age, people, my generation, young generations who are seemingly quickly losing hope with the quote unquote American dream. And I'm not saying it's because of daycare fraud. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's the information, the evidence that has been provided by a 23-year-old kid on YouTube is extremely damning. And as more information comes out, there was articles on this Somalian daycare fraud as far back as 2018, alluding that it had been going on for 5 years then, and just no one does anything about it. No one gets in trouble. Yet if I send Poppy a $600 Venmo payment and he doesn't claim it's on his taxes, we're probably both getting thrown in a cage, or at least having to get an audit. It's crazy. And I'm not saying don't pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. Do things by the book. It's crazy that the amount of fraud, crime, again, on both sides. One side's going to talk about Trump and his family using crypto to grift or extract from the people. The other side's going to talk about Somalian daycares extracting from the people. It's both sides are bad. And when I see no one getting in trouble for any of this stuff, it's cause for concern. Like, what are we doing when it's this obvious that a 23-year-old with a camera can expose this stuff? Well, like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, who's protecting the people? It's wild to me to think that under the Gensler regime, the Gary Gensler regime, and the war on crypto, I actually felt like we might have been like, I didn't like it. I didn't like the idea that I might be viewed as in a crime organization because I host a crypto podcast. If I have to leave the country because the politicians are coming to war on me and us, but at the same time, at least they were seemingly attempting to stop some of the grift, attempting to stop some of the exploits and straight up crime. Like, this stuff is so damning, so obvious. I have some attorney friends, group chat, a lot of them are in Ohio. They just, after this stuff came out of the weekend, they started on some quick searches. You find the exact same thing in Columbus, Ohio. Somalian daycare centers, no working phone numbers. You go to it, it's like a dive bar in a strip plaza somewhere. There's no kids. Like, it's just like, this stuff is rampant. And I truly believe we've just begun to see the beginning. I told one of my friends, like, you need to go, saw the playbook. Nick Shirley just gave it to you. Go hop in your car, drive around today, and go visit every daycare in the city within, around 270, and just document what you find. I mean, I'm sure there are some legitimate, and for those I feel, because like I said, it is a industry that's full of regulations, full of audits, especially when you're getting government aid. You're supposed to jump through a lot of hoops. In fact, I've seen a few long form articles on this app to where people gave up on starting a daycare because it was so regulated. And yet they're like, I feel like an idiot. If I just was left curving this at an IQ of 67, I just would have did it and not worried about the regulations. And I'd be doing, not that they'd be committing fraud, but they had started the business they wanted to start. Very disappointing. And without going off on the rant about Somalian daycares, more is going to come out on that. That's not over. I don't know if the American dream is dead. It seems to be dying. And I think this is the perfect segue into where the new American dream, and it's not a great one, but tie it all together, we are at the heart of it. I need a good title. I meant to change something very clickbaiting from the jump, and I failed to do so. So I'm gonna talk about one more thing. I said I'd post that Nick Shirley post. I will pin that up top, and then there's some Shirley joke to be made here. I dropped the ball with having a very much a dad joke. I should have prepped and asked ChatGPT for help on. Surely this can't be true, can it? That's not good. It's not what I was thinking. Not what I was looking for, but it's all I had in my brain that's not large enough to figure out how to commit daycare fraud at a large level and not get caught. I kid, it's a joke, it's a bit. So I pinned that up top. The other article, in all seriousness, this is a good one that is good for, I think, good for all times. It's especially relevant now, and I will tie it all together. Oh, by the way, the Luring Center, here's another one I'll pin up top. It just expanded on the fraud to make it even more disgusting for those of you that went through the pandemic and did things by the book, whether you took a PPP loan and paid it back, or whether you didn't need a PPP loan, so you just didn't take one because you didn't need it, and you let others who thought did need it. The Somalia Luring Center, yes, it was a learning center that didn't even spell learning correctly. They took out a $108,000 PPP loan in 2020 and a $106,000 loan in April of 21, both of which were fully forgiven. So on top of the getting funded for a non-functioning daycare, they took out about $250,000 in PPP loans. In Minnesota alone, there is 42,000 NGOs that handed out $120 billion per year. I'm sure some of that's legitimate. I'd hate to see good programs get wiped out. I'm at a point, and I'm not normally one that would say you need to wipe everything out and start from the ground up. It's getting to the point, like, it's so rampant. I don't know the path forward other than blow it all up. Stop funding these daycares until you figure out which ones are legit. Like, they're laughing at us. I don't like. They said there's articles from 2018 that they said it's like a money glitch. Somalians are saying this is like the free money glitch is you open a daycare. The post I really want to talk about though is, and how I think this all ties together. It's not just because of this. Let me be very clear with that. This is not the only reason while the American dream might be dying, or the old version of the American dream. You go to school, you work hard, you get good grades, you get a degree, you get a job, you work for a company for 20, 30 years, you buy your home, it appreciates, and you can retire happy and healthy. That dream is, I'm not saying it's dead, much more challenging than it once was. And I think a combination of factors, one, be it government bloat, rampant fraud, and funding NGOs seemingly without any sort of checks and balances on many cases, is leading many to feel they can't make it in the traditional sense of the American dream. They're looking for alternatives. And this article is a really good read. It's long form, so don't read it now. I will do my best to try to summarize it here. But again, if you were on X over the past couple of days, you probably saw it. Siceless, and I want to just quick TLDR this, Poppy, and then I'll let you get in here and take it whichever direction you'd like. Silas had this to say. Again, I'm not going to read the whole article, but for those of you on Spaces, I did put it up top. Go bookmark it. Go reference back to it later. The quick TLDR, he calls it the prison of financial mediocrity. It says, I'm not a stock picker. I worship at the altar of a large breadth of low confidence. And then in parentheses has 53 equal to or less than 53% win rate bets. He's playing on the margins, honey edge, honey EV, and volume game where he knows if he wins 53% of the time, it's gonna print. Goes on to say, but I'm absolutely betting on the house that long degeneracy is the prevalent socioeconomic theme of the coming century. It's why people above the age of 40 will recommend you get better at your job and increase your salary, whilst everyone else seemed to be ignoring exactly that and desperately clawing at something, anything that can give them a shot at outrageous success. The easiest thing to sell to a crowd like this is quote unquote hope. And when you understand this, you understand the rise of casinos in all forms, DEXs, prediction markets, etc., and the rise of trading gurus, business gurus, courses, and of course, Substacks. The setup. One doesn't need to be locked up to be imprisoned. There is a generation walking around with invisible bars. They know that life exists, the house, the stability, the reward for showing up and doing the right thing for 30 years. They know people have it. They just can't imagine how to get there. Not that it's hard. They literally can't construct a realistic path from where they are to where they're supposed to end up. Their traditional path to wealth accumulation is closed. Not difficult, closed. Where boomers hold 50% of the national wealth while comprising 20% of the population, and millennials hold 10% despite being the same share, the game reveals itself to be fundamentally broken. The ladder got pulled up, and it's not like the boomers wanted to do this. Asset price inflation just happened to benefit those who already owned assets. But the effect is the same. Collapse of the traditional bargain. The implicit deal used to be simple: show up, work hard, stay loyal, you'll be rewarded. Companies offered pension, tenure meant something, your house appreciated while you slept. The system worked if you trusted it. That deal is dead. Staying at a company for 20 years is now a career liability, not an asset. Wages grow 8% while housing costs doubled and debt payments for young people increased 33%. The math doesn't support patience anymore. Looking at the bigger picture, I used to think it was bad, but with the advent of AI and the economic impact they're going to have, even with current technologies, I think it's only going to get significantly worse. When the system stops rewarding patience, people stop being patient. Call it rational adaptation. He goes on to talk about the push and pull and how modern society, he talks about Maslow's hierarchy. Food is cheap, basic shelter exists, safety, healthcare, baseline employment, not guaranteed, but accessible enough that young people aren't fighting for survival. So now that they're not fighting for survival, they instead are going to the casinos. Baseline, I know I can survive. My food and housing is going to be covered. I may as well, I've been saying it for a while, if we get a stimmy check in 2026, I think a lot of those stimmy checks are going straight into the casino because the people getting them, most, not all, most are not worried about food and basic shelter. They already have it. And $2,000 is not going to help them change their lives if they just put it into food and basic shelter. But if they put it into one of the casinos and they catch lightning in a bottle, now all of a sudden they can finally achieve what used to be the American dream. I'm going to take a beat there. There's more on this. I've got more thoughts. Sorry for the deep and heavy conversation. I haven't felt exactly like this. I'm not a big government fan. I'm not a government fan. I'm not a fan of either party. I did not vote in the last presidential election. I thought both candidates were not great. And it's disappointing that those were our best two options, or the two options presented to us. So I consider myself apolitical, and I do my best not to let things outside of my control bother me. As someone who has children, it's concerning. And for whatever reason, this Somalian daycare expose in Minnesota, it really did a number on me and my feelings and on the state of our country. Apologize to those who aren't in the US, primarily because, as I said, it's been suspected for a while in some cities, and you've seen grumblings of it. Articles are popping up that were written in 2018, and no one did anything. It's disgusting that it's just been, people are at best turning a blind eye to the fraud and corruption. At worst, they're not only enabling it, but participating in it. That said, Poppy, go and get in here. Take it which direction you like. Sorry for the long-winded monologue this morning, but felt the need to get that off my chest. GM.
Yeah, this Somalian fraud thing is all over the timeline. Actually, as you were talking, I just went to the timeline, and everything is right there, just front and center. It looks like it is probably worse outside of Minnesota, actually. Like, there's a post here that there's over 539 registered daycares in Washington State. Most of them don't even have addresses. And then there's other comments of people saying they're in Ohio and here and there. So yeah, it's interesting, but it is kind of a dual side issue, because look, at the end of the day, the Pentagon has failed their financial audits for like the last 10 years, where they can't even account for trillions of dollars each year. I was reading in like 2023, they couldn't account for half of 3.8 trillion. And this has been an ongoing thing, and Congress put in place, mandates for them to be financially audited every year, and they have failed since like 2016 or something crazy. And then you could just look at political officials like Nancy Pelosi, but it's on both sides again, where, I mean, their net worths, literally skyrocket, and they're making, 100K a year, 150K a year. But their net worths go to, 20, 30, 100 mil. So it's, it's pretty widespread. And, people are like, oh, it's crime season in crypto. It's been crime season elsewhere. And this is what Elon, I think, was trying to do with Doge. I think I sent something to you specifically, Cap, where Elon was saying the biggest fraud loophole in the United States is non-government funding fraud. So people taking advantage of these huge allocations, grants, pockets of money that maybe nobody is overlooking. Very interesting. I might have sent you, Cap, simultaneously, as you're talking. There's a post pop up. That's a bit of a tinfoil hat conspiracy about J.P. Morgan traditionally being short silver and shifting to a very large long position towards, I guess, in recent time frame. Like in I saw something that said December 27th, but I'm assuming, let's say in the last few months, they shifted to a very large long position, but have apparently been pretty short silver traditionally. Now, again, I don't know how true that is, but it's a post that's going viral and doesn't really have too much pushback. So I try to look at that, right? Because some of the stuff on X people post, you can look in the comments and see it being debunked or see the community notes. This one didn't have too much of that, though there were some questions raised. So it's the silver thing is interesting, but I do agree with you. The role is big and it's attached to politics. There's a lot of conspiracies about that woman who was killed. She voted against it in Minnesota. Um, and then, she was killed. There's just a ton of rabbit holing, and I know that's not the full direction I want to go this morning either, but it is interesting, how top down this stuff probably is.
Yeah, it's again, it's disgusting. A few people chiming in the chat that are familiar with the daycare industry. It's supposed to be very regulated, especially if you're getting any sort of funding like this. There are, maybe not every state, there are check and balances that are supposed to prevent this stuff from happening. Back to the article, follows up: why grind for 20 years toward a promotion that might not exist in 10 years? The Maslow trap: when you can survive but can't get anywhere, something breaks. You're not desperate enough to accept any deal, but you're blocked from deals that actually matter. The cognitive bandwidth that would have gone to survival instead goes to frustration and searching, looking for any path that might lead somewhere. Progression isn't just income, it's purpose, identity, the feeling that your work matters. Financial security isn't just money, it's the freedom to take risk, travel, build, create. When these paths close and the timeline to achieve them shrinks, the pressure has to go somewhere. These prisoners need a way out, and by God, they need a way out now. Comes in agency in the casino. I first saw it in the L1 crypto and dismissed it as a fad. Then I saw it in NFTs, and then again and again, and the entire shit show between NFTs and perpdexes and meme coins, and now obviously the prediction market super cycle. The same young people who can't imagine grinding at one company will absolutely grind for months learning crypto trading. They will pour hours into understanding prediction markets to understand the very economy they believe wholeheartedly to be rigged. The same person will dismiss traditional investing as an inside game, will bet their rent money on a meme coin. Why? Because the casino is the only place they feel agency, the only place where their decisions might actually unlock the next tier on a timeline that matters. Traditional career path: your manager got promoted for being there first, not for being good, and your whole department might get automated anyway. Stock market: sure, you can earn 10% annually and afford a house in 47 years, assuming your job still exists. But crypto, prediction market, sports betting, the research actually matters here. Conviction pays. Even an imagined edge like yours, not something you're waiting for someone to grant you, you're placing bets where your judgment directly determines your results. The house edge exists. Most people lose. I think most people understand this, but they're playing, not waiting for a future that might never arrive. The people preaching for these people to stop gambling have failed to understand the predicament of the prisoners and always assumed a kind of intellectual superiority that you have a negative edge. My position is that I think gamblers absolutely understand that. The ones who say gambling is bad, you should stop, are almost always the ones speaking from privileged position of being in financial upper class. They see a way out, they see a path, so they espouse the goodness and kindness of God on staying on the path. For many in prison, gambling is their salvation, and you are literally telling them to accept a life of eternal damnation. This is why they rebel against you. This is why your well-intentioned advice falls on deaf ears. I know some of you may be thinking some of this is hyperbole, but I think it's spot on. And it's only going to get more pronounced. He goes on to say prediction markets, Polymarket and Kalshi did 10 billion in volume in November alone. Combined annual volume is approaching 40 billion. In 2020, it was essentially zero. The growth rate is vertical. Sports betting, legal sports betting went from 248 million in 2017 to 13.7 billion last year. It's going to be much higher this year if I were to guess. Gen Z and millennials account for 76% of betting activity. Think about that. Gen Zs and millennials, which you earlier said only possess 10% of the wealth as the older boomers, it's not the boomers hitting the casinos. and gambling their disposable income. It's the Gen Zs and the millennials gambling their rent money or maybe their savings. I'm not saying their rent money. Not all are gambling their rent money, but they're not investing because that path doesn't seem realistic for them anymore. For many, even despite these sports books booming, they still rose 7% year over year. TransUnion reported identified these gamblers as speculators, urban renters, heavy user of crypto apps, concentrated in mobile trading platforms, young people locked out of traditional wealth building seeking asymmetric payoffs in the only markets that offer them. It's sad, and I always like to think hey, we're going to critique or bring up an issue. What is the potential solution? What is the path forward? Unfortunately, I don't know on this one, other than there has to be some accountability. People that are, and it's not just the NGOs and government fraud. That needs to be, the corruption needs to be stopped. So hard stop. Whatever side of the spectrum you're on, if you're a centrist, if you lean left, if you lean right, it doesn't matter. You should be against government fraud and corruption. It's just, this is not a political issue. It's not a sexual orientation issue. It's not a racial issue. It's just right and wrong. And all sides should be against stealing money from taxpayers to enrich themselves and their friends. There's just like, this is, I feel as if the most straightforward statement I've ever made here. And yeah, I'm probably upsetting some people. That's not my intent. It's just, it is what it is. Like, this is wrong. Zonko adds in the chat, I know two things are different, but my first job out of school was in government contracting. We literally submitted applications to win the chance to complete projects. The amount of hoops we had to go through is insane just to have a chance, yet the fraud happened unchecked. Wild. Yeah, there's so many hoops and balances to attempt to prevent corruption, to prevent this. And that, it's not like, am I disappointed with the fraud and corruption? Yes. I'm much more disappointed that it seemingly has just went unchecked. And I don't know if it changes. That's where I'm losing hope. Like, there should be massive interrogations, not just in Minnesota. There should be in Columbus. There should be in the state of Washington. You should see every major media news publication speaking on this today. I doubt they will. That's what's equally disgusting as me. They're all in on it, seemingly. I feel this as someone who's in my mid-40s. I can't imagine how a younger generation who feels like they're really fighting this uphill battle feels. Like, how do you win if the media is not going to report on something that is so apparently blatant? I know they're just allegations and accusations at this point. Really attempt to think about this. Go watch that 42-minute video and come out of that saying, oh, that's all just rumors. None of that's substantiated. It's all just hearsay. I don't think you can honestly do that. I just think if you're being real honest with yourself, you're going to watch that video and you're like, wow, this fraud is rampant. And then you're going to look at some of the other damning information that's public now. And like, how is this happening? It's very frustrating. And I think if we don't want to call it fraud, if we don't want to call it that, mismanagement, if we're going to be very friendly, like the overall government mismanagement in probably many of these states, it's probably actually at some level in all 50 states in the US. Some of the ones that are now becoming very public, it's the ones mentioned. I was still trying to find the article on the state of California, and it was in the billions already, like from I know I know I got a good article. I'm still looking for it. So I don't want to just, there's a lot of articles on this, and there's some that are, I think, embellishing a little bit and making it more grandiose. I'm trying to find the actual thing from the government of California that basically confirmed this, but it's over $50 billion with a B that has been that just essentially vanished. 70 billion is the number I'm seeing here, but I'm still looking for the actual article, so I'm not misspeaking. Anyways, I would like to move on from this. I do feel they're related. I feel that, okay, yes, here it is. A 92-page report by the California State Auditor. Again, California State Auditor found that over 70 billion in taxpayer funds have been lost, including 2.5 billion in SNAP fraud, 24 billion in fighting homelessness, and 18 billion for a high-speed rail. Still haven't found the original article, but those seem like the same numbers I read from the actual article that cited the California auditor. And again, if this is the state auditor that's stating these numbers, like, okay, now what? Who's getting in trouble for this? Who's getting fired? I'm not looking for people to be thrown in a cage, but there has to be some consequences. It's very obvious that this isn't right to anyone that's looking at this stuff objectively. You can't make this stuff up. It actually, if you saw it without the actual evidence, you probably would say it was just an engagement farm. It's just a conspiracy theory because it's so wild. There's no way that's real. We can say innocent until proven guilty, but I unfortunately don't have confidence that the guilty parties are going to actually see real consequences. Now, they probably stop their grift. We probably stop seeing fake daycare centers open, but will anyone ever have any real consequences? Will there ever be any repercussions or restitution? You would think yes, it's got to be. And I personally, I'm not holding my breath that that'll happen. There's just been too many things from, I don't even want to go to the Epstein list, but there's not been a single arrest made. That's crazy. You have all this information, and yet no one knew is getting in trouble after all this stuff. You come through all this information, and there's not enough there that only people or Epstein and his wife. There's only 2 people that go down for this. It just makes no sense. And this isn't conspiracy theory stuff. This is like hard data that's now public information. It's like, it's very frustrating, and I think compounds everything else in the economy and jobs and everything else that financial prison of, or I should get it the correct title, the prison of financial mediocrity. I think it's all compounded. You're just like this stuff when we're, in addition to that, navigating systems that seem to be rife with corruption and fraud. Like, dude, actually, I couldn't say if I'm a 21-year-old kid. I for the most part, I am going the same route. I am going the route of betting on myself and hunting edge. And now I'm not just gambling. I have my buckets, but I also take swings with my asymmetric bucket because I feel it's better here than, and I living proof. I was looking at an investment property in contract, and I'm deciding to walk away from that tomorrow. Was supposed to be closing day, and it's not worth the risk. It's not worth the risk, the cash that I have to outlay for potentially to squeak out a decent little return. And maybe it's just this market, and this market's been getting hit harder lately. But go look, if you haven't done this recently, go look in your home market. Pull up Zillow, and start first, not with the homes for sale. Start with rental homes in your market, like standalone homes, not apartments, standalone homes, and just look at them. See who owns them. Because if it's anything like here, you'll see that the majority, not some, the majority of rental homes on a market are owned by a few institutions, whether it's BlackRock or one of their subsidiaries, Tricon, Home Partners, Main Street. There's several. If I were to throw a ring of say 30 miles around where I'm at, I'm pretty confident saying over 50% of the rental homes, probably more, are owned by these entities. Now it's a capitalistic country. They're free to buy whatever they want. It's exasperating the issue. They're buying these homes. Most of the homes that are selling are going to these institutions. They're not going to individual homeowners in most cases. And they're, dare I say, manipulating the market, the floors. you look at there's more there's for one of the first times in history there's more sellers than buyers by the tune of, I don't know, the number I just saw was like 500,000. Demand greater than supply. Well, I'm not an economist, but normally that tells you the price should come down. The prices are barely coming down. Why? Because these institutions, they don't need to undercut their floors. The ones you see coming down, the ones you see accepting offers way below ask are the individual homeowners who they find they want to move, or they have to move, or they're a forced seller. The institutions aren't forced sellers. And again, it is just one subset, one sector of the market. But it was enough, again, sharing a personal example. It just, the risk doesn't seem worth the reward, because the bottom may not be in. It very well could be catching a falling knife. Unknowing how this plays out, it just doesn't, it's no longer the quote unquote American dream that many of us my age grew up, whether that was your aspiration or not. I mean, I've been a hardwired entrepreneur from a young age, but the traditional American dream is changing. And I think part of so I'm not going to say it's dead. I still think it's one of the greatest countries, if not the greatest country in the world. I'm grateful to be an American. I appreciate my freedoms, even some that I may challenge across state lines from time to time. I digress. I do wholeheartedly agree that the traditional American dream that many have known to aspire to achieve, it, like a new hope needs to be created, new dream needs to be created. Maybe it is AI, maybe it is universal basic income, maybe it is the era of abundance that some are saying, like AI is just going to lead to so much productivity, so much efficiencies that everyone's going to be wealthy or rich or living beyond their means. The other doomers would say that it gets worse because of this technology boom, and more jobs get lost, and the downward spiral has begun. I don't know, but if it's not something to do with automation, AI, and an era of abundance, which, again, you could list some really compelling cases on this. I think I shouted out Basent on the show last week about his recent interview with the All In guys, and he's very bullish for 26. Basically, the TLDR, the foundation that they've attempted to lay this year is now in place, and next year you start seeing the impact on the economy, better rates and growth, and et cetera, et cetera. I still think the gap, the void today, like Poppy, even though both you and I went, I would say, untraditional routes in our careers, unless I'm mistaken, I don't think you worked for a large corporation for 20 years of your life. Do you agree though that we had those of us born in the 80s, and even I would say 90s for sure, if someone asked you what is the American dream, you could probably define it, at least loosely, what the American dream was. Is that fair?
Yeah, well, I think there was like a visual depiction of it, right? You always have like the white picket fence, little house, family, a couple kids, dog. Like that was always the American dream visual. That was, just too good to be true, probably for most, but or too simple for today's society with social media. It's much different now.
What is it though? Like if you go ask 100 Zoomers, what's the American dream? I don't even know what answer you get. I don't even know what one of the answers you get, let alone the same answer multiple times.
I think the next generation. Well, you can't speak for all, but like they're immersed in streaming, gaming, and that culture says Lambo, right? When Lambo, I think that's probably most Zoomer and crypto's goal, right? Is when Lambo.
So I mean, that's probably, now that you say that, if you go ask a kid, what's the American dream? What do you aspire to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? I bet you're right. The top answer probably is a streamer, a content creator,
gamer, streamer.
Yeah. And I think part of that because they've seen they see a path to agency, their results, their production mattering, and a quicker path, or at least I think even many know it's unlikely. Many probably believe it's extremely rare and hard, but they think that's a more realistic path than going to get a job at a big corporation and maybe working there for 30 years. Is that fair? I'm catching up here a little bit. One thing that, quick interjection, not related, but maybe some magic internet money. I believe Lighter Go TGE is supposed to go live today. There was some rumors thinking it would hit maybe already. It is not yet. Joey distracted me with some other news, completely unrelated. So I'm not going to go there right this is your fault, Joey. This is why I don't try to catch up with the war room. It gets a little all over the place. Yeah, just a wild time. Gary, GM, welcome to the stage. What brought you up this morning, sir?
Yeah, GM. So I have a 17-year-old, and he did not live with me for many years. He lived with his mom, and he moved in back in August. And he launched a coin on Pump Fund and made 20 grand and did the normal stuff. But for him and his friends, which many of them have visited, it's about freedom. It's not about going to get a job, but it's about having personal freedom to spend your time the way you choose to spend your time. And I think that that's where more and more people are going. I think AI is going to help us get there. But I think that more people realize that going to college, going in debt, getting a job, and working for 40 to 50 years, they've watched their parents suffer and they're not happy with where that is. My son's mom lives in a subdivision and all the houses look the same. And he said that's his worst hell. He never, ever, ever wants to live like that. And I think a lot of kids have watched their parents try to live the American dream, and it's just not the dream. You know, you're working, you're getting cancer, you're dying, all these things are happening. And I think the next generation wants something a little bit different. And I think freedom is going to be a bigger driver. Yes, they want money, and yes, they want a Lambo, and yes, they want all those things, but they don't see the path to get there is to get the job and grind your ass off and get into a promotion schedule that maybe eventually when you're 50 you can get enough money to do that. They think the path is very much independent on their own, going in and building their own drop shipping or building their own streaming or whatever that freedom path is for them. But I think that's where the youth's gonna shift a lot to.
Yeah. I think well said. I think you're right. I think while some may aspire to achieve the Lambo and the mansion, I don't think that's all. I think it's certainly aspiration for some. I don't think it's all. I think you're probably right that freedom and their time freedom, most are viewing that as more of a priority. Meaning, if the 21-year-old Zoomer can trade crypto and prediction markets and not even be great at it, but they can grind out, 1 month they make $2,000, the next month they make $5,000, the next month they lose $500, but then the next month they make $7,000, then the next month they make $100, and the next month they make $4,000, and like they'd rather do that and pay their bills and have that upside potential, be it the whole time they're doing it on their schedule and their time. I think you're right. I think time freedom is probably the dream for most of the younger generation, and most don't see a path to that working for someone else at an entry level job that may not exist in a few years. So good on the kids. I think they're wise. I was one who didn't, I bought the American dream hook, line, and sinker when I was in high school, and God bless my parents. They're incredible people. They instilled a lot of morals and ethics and values in me, and be forever grateful for the upbringing I had. Incredible parents. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and my parents taught me the key to success was go to school, you get good grades. I did it. I was nearly a straight A student in high school. I got 1B and got a full ride into Ohio State. It's directly enrolled into their school of business, which is, it's not Ivy League, but the business school is like a top, I don't know, at the time it was like number 13 in the country. And to get in as a freshman was a big deal. So full ride at Ohio State, living the dream, on my way, or so I thought. And as I got into my senior year, I saw a lot of my friends graduating with these prestigious, business school degrees, and they were moving to Chicago and living with 3 or 4 roommates, and they were waiting tables or bartending. And I just so happened I was selling cell phones part-time instead of bartending, and had at the time moved into management and was making more while I was still finishing up school, like would push six figures, and then even I dropped out my final quarter because I got a promotion into a six-figure income that I didn't know any friends that had just graduated. They're making six figures out of school, except a few that were in finance. But most weren't using their degrees. They couldn't get jobs, and this is in 2003, 2004. This was pre-housing crisis. Things were still quote unquote good or perceived as good by most outsiders. But yeah, what I saw was most of my friends that were graduating weren't using their degrees and were taking some entry level job in hospitality somewhere. And so I dropped out of school my final quarter, and I never looked back. And even though I was working for someone then, I was also being mentored by a few self-made individuals, and got turned on to a different way of thinking, and knew that working at that time was a means to my ends of becoming an entrepreneur and going into business for myself. Eventually would do it in the wireless business. And I have been self-employed since 2008, minus the short stint that I had to finish and earn out in corporate America. But it was by choice, but wasn't the planned goal. It just ended up being part of the outcome. I digress. While I think it's good that the younger generation shifts their vision of the American dream from go get a degree and work for someone else for 30, 40 years, I think it's good that they're looking for something different. I'm concerned that the casino is, and or even content creation is the default as a leading, like, it's hard to make a living creating content. 1% of the people will probably do it. You can go hyper niche like what we've done here and show up and work every day and work hard, and eventually you might start being able to monetize your content. Most won't ever monetize their content, never enough to pay their bills, let alone live that next tier of life. The casino, same thing. Most people will lose at the casino, and the only way they're going to win is they play long enough, and then when they do hit a big win, they take chips off the table. And most that hit big in the casino don't take chips off the table, because by that point they're addicted to the casino. Case in point, I shared an article in the Warmer this morning about an attorney who has won some of the largest Supreme Court cases ever, is now facing prison time because he was a degenerate gambler that didn't pay his income tax per the charges. Guy couldn't walk away from the casino. Didn't need to play the casino anymore, but just couldn't walk away. And you're talking someone who's an educated, successful individual, practicing attorney at the highest level, was losing 7-8 figures in poker games. So you see that, and you're telling me the average 21-year-old that's never had a job like that, that's never made more than, that's never had a salary job. Their jobs consist of serving, bartending, and driving Uber. There's going to be a lot that are going to be pulled into the casino. Most won't ever win, and most will never get ahead like that. So it's my ask. I'm hoping Von Frunten has something sage here, as I'm going to step away for a quick 20, 30 seconds after handing the mic. What do we backfill the old American dream with, which some of us can recognize that's probably been broken for a little while. It's just now it's no longer, someone said earlier, that it was, it was a false dream. And I think it was a dream for many, many years. Maybe you could argue for our generation or a portion of our generation, it was fake. But I also know some friends who have done very well for themselves. They've accumulated millions of dollars in net worth working for someone else. They're very happy. It may not be the cookie cutter subdivision you just described, Gary, but they live in all their homes in their subdivision are $1 million homes, and they've never thought about going into business for themselves. So there are ways. There has been ways. I do think that path is narrowing, and fewer people are going to achieve that. And I would go as far as say, especially those that aren't in a specialized AI hedge. I think, I used to say doctors and attorneys, that route of education made sense. Now I don't know. Like, there's a world where that demand goes down, and it's only the best of the best of the best, because they're able to be far more efficient with AI. Paralegals, I would run as fast as I could. I would be actively working for my new career if I was a paralegal today. No offense, it's just I don't see how they exist in 5 years with LLMs doing what they are today. So all that to be said, Von Frunten, GM, welcome to the stage. Take whichever direction you like. I'm hoping you have after you take whichever direction, like I'm hoping you then have an answer of what all of us and the younger generations should be viewing now as the American dream, and what's an alternative to the casino. If we are long degeneracy, I agree with the original poster, unfortunately, but I would like there to be at least an alternative so that everyone doesn't feel that's their only path to the American or the dream life is the casino. GM, sir.
GM. I feel like I always get the pass the mic while Cap always refills his coffee. So happy to play that role. No, so I came up when Gary was talking because I wanted to build on I think some of his thoughts, and then a couple others came up along the way. So I'm a recovering corporate American. I was sold the bill hook, line, and sinker. I went to bed. I went to school, got good grades, went to college. Got less good grades. But got MBA, went to law school, have a ridiculous amount of student debt to show for it. Went and worked 20 years, and yeah, and like financially speaking, did good, right? And it was fine, and it could have continued to be fine, and it would have been just that, fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think there's a lot of people I know that are incredibly happy. They find a lot of fulfillment, a lot of purpose, a lot of financial rewards, everything. They go and they work, and that's like that's the thing that they use to ascribe value to themselves, right? And for a long time, it was me. I was the same way. And then a couple years back, I just kind of hit this turning point where I like the thing for me wasn't just about time freedom to where Gary was saying, or maybe just a different angle on this, but it was like I wanted to enjoy what I was doing and not necessarily follow my passion the way that the Steve Jobs graduation speeches would say, but it's like I just wanted to enjoy what I was doing, and I wasn't enjoying what I was doing anymore. And so that's when I started this, journey in, that started to lean more into entrepreneurship and building and finding things that I enjoyed. I may not be passionate about it. Hell, I may not even be great at it yet. But it was something that if I can find a way and still make, things work financially for my family, then that's how I want to spend my time. Because the thing that scares the crap out of me, and I've seen this in my own family, I've seen it with friends, I've seen it with mentors that do the whole just got to work to retirement, just got to work to retirement. They work 30, 40 years. They get to, they retire, they're in their 60s. They maybe get a few good years and then their health starts to go to shit. And so this prize that was at the end of the tunnel for them is very, very short lived. And that was the thing that scared the crap out of me. I was like, what am I waiting for? Like nothing is guaranteed. Um, so let me find time to go enjoy what I'm doing and do so responsibly, do so like not putting my family out in the streets or anything, but find a way to enjoy it. And that's where I think a lot of the kids are getting to way earlier. I mean, I talked to my son, my oldest is 15. He talks about setting up basically a lack of a better term, like youth basketball network when he graduates, to have gyms and run youth sports leagues and kind of provide the coaching that he enjoys and he wishes that he would have gotten earlier in life, and kind of be that thing. Like he's looking at an entrepreneurship type of mentality, not a casino, not a YouTuber, not a TikToker or whatever, but he is looking at how do I find a way to do something I enjoy? What are the steps I need to take? And that's where I see the alternative to the casino, whether your casino is content creation, crypto trading, actual casino. I see a lot more people talking about like, how can I just go build something myself? Because the tools that they have available to them with AI make that actually look achievable. Like I think about it when I was a kid, like we were messing around on really crappy websites. I was like, I can't start an internet company. I can barely make something in AOL Press, throwback for anyone who was using that back in the 90s. Um, but now they look at it and I mean, like you can't open up the internet without finding some video or some article about how to create your completely fully functional web app that will generate 10,000 of revenue a month in 30 days, right? There's video after video of that. So it is empowering them to get really, really bold and saying, hey, by the time I'm ready, I mean, I've got a 15-year-old, I got a 12-year-old, I got an 8-year-old. Jesus, by then they'll probably just say something and speak it into existence and be able to run a business with that. So all of that to say, I still think the American dream is there for some. I think people will, there will be a certain segment of or segments of people who will choose to pursue it. Either they enjoy it, or it may just be like the risk profile that they're comfortable with. Like they want the stability of the corporate job, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think there will definitely be the people that go to the casino because they are the ones that believe that they can hit big. They will become the Mr. Beast, of the world. They will become the person who hits it big on trading or whatever. But I do think that entrepreneurship and not entrepreneurship of let me go build some, 8-figure, 9-figure exit, but just let me just go do something that makes me enough money to live the life that I want to live. And I have the tools now to go figure out what that is. That's where I see like this third path kind of coming out of, and that's the path that excites me. It's the path that, full honesty, at the age of 43, I'm taking, and I think the tools are only going to get better and better to make that path easier and easier for people of all ages.
Well said. First of all, I'm proud of you. Congratulations on the new journey. And I don't know. I've never asked you this question personally. Maybe it's pure coincidence. Maybe you took some inspiration from him, but I can't help but think your newfound entrepreneur journey has done a little bit to inspire your kid and kids and their entrepreneur journeys. Is that a fair assessment?
Good question. I've never asked them. I do have my 8-year-old because we actually got some shipping that we got to do today. My 8-year-old came in while Gary was talking earlier and asked me if we're getting those Vanga shipments out today. So I definitely see it in him. The 15-year-old I haven't asked him about. But he's in high school, like careers, what do you want to do, stuff like that. So it's funny. He's being fed, and I say this, it'll sound bad, it's not. But the typical, let's go find what career you want to be, to go find what college you want to go to get the major to go do that career, right? And it's and the system for that is set up to be like, go get a good corporate job. He is sitting there kind of bucking that trend of like, I don't know, he said like, being an architect sounds cool to him, right? But when you hear him talk about basketball and youth sports, he gets super excited. So I don't know. He's actually the one that is the least involved in my entrepreneurial journey. My younger two are very much involved and want to help and want to be part of it. But I do see when him and his friends talk, most of them are not talking about what company they want to work for or what field they want to be in. They talk in a way of like, what is the thing that I want to go do? And maybe there is a corporate path to do that thing. But if there's not, I think they're just going to go do the thing they want to do, whether they have to build it themselves or somebody else has already built it for them.
It gets me excited, man. Like it really does. I for a long since I not only like found my own entrepreneur journey, but since I just became a ardent beater of that drum, and like my kids, both my one just graduated college, the other is going to school next year. I think college is important. I think I learned a lot in college about life skills and social skills, and I swear I first started growing my network that would impact me for the rest of my life. There's a couple I think of like 2-3 high school friends that I remain in touch with, and I guess it played a part in my professional career, like small part, but not like directly like some of my college friends and their associates and acquaintances have. So like college is important, more so for the life skills, the social skills, and growing up. I mean, being able to grow up as independently with still having that safety net to some degree. I've always encouraged my kids to go to school, but I've never once told them that that's the key to success. I've never once told them once they get their college degree, you're set for life. Like they have never once heard that out of me. And I think more people our age and especially younger are probably raising their kids similarly to where they may, hey, yeah, you should get a job, you should work, But while you're working for someone else, you should be looking at multiple streams of income. You should be exploring your passions. You should be finding a way to do something in the evenings, weekends, or maybe it is take that entry level job serving so you have some income coming in, but build your thing. Go do the thing you want to build. Maybe it's just my circle of friends who I'm sure I've self-selected to some degree there, without a doubt. Even my friends who have done well in the corporate world, they most are also either a entrepreneur minded, or they're investors and or speculators, gamblers, right? Like even my friends who have done well by way of W-2 salary income, I don't think I know a single one who doesn't also have their asymmetric bucket, as they should, right? But I don't know any of them that are just piling away 100% of what they earned into S&P 500 by way of 401ks. Most are actually far more degenerate than I, because they have, the 50K a month coming in. They can take big swings, and if they go for the year, they're still fine. Let's go back to Von Pratt, and then we'll get Gary back in here.
Yeah, I think the Oh, I just lost my train of thought. Go back to Gary. I'll come back.
We were talking parents, our generation and younger, not selling the same American dream that many of us grew up with, whether you believed it or not.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, you're talking about college is when I raised my hand, right? I will say I went to a lot of school, and whether or not that school results, pays off from an ROI standpoint of like, did I actually make enough to pay off, the tuition and then some, who knows? And whether I can attribute it to the education that I got, who knows? What I will say, and as a parent, like I want my kids to go to college, not because it's like, hey, that's what you need to be a job, that's what you need to be successful, but I do think there is value in education. Um, Now, does it need to be an Ivy League school? Can it be a state school? Can it be community college? Can it be vocational? I think there's a lot of ways to get education, but I do think there is value in expanding how you think and being able to look at any situation in life from multiple perspectives. So I will say I value it from that side. Like I value the machine in that regard. But to the point that you were making earlier that I wholeheartedly agree with, to say that going and getting good grades and going to college and getting good grades and getting a job and working in that same job and working hard for the next 20, 30, 40 years is, will generate the same level of success as it did for the previous generation. I don't think it's not the only way, and it's definitely not as reliable as it once was.
Yeah, well said. I wholeheartedly agree. Go ahead, Gary. Get back in here.
Yeah. So I first off, my son was smart. He stabled like 50% of the money that he made at 250 whenever Solana was at 250. So I taught him that what goes up always comes down, and he stabled, and he was smart, and he was able to save some of his money. The other thing is, since he doesn't want to go to college, and I'm not a huge fan of college, we helped him get a job working for one of my former clients because he wants to get into AI and he wants to get into sales. So I have him, he's working full-time job as a sales development rep doing AI automations on Instagram and stuff with a very solid like 36K base salary and commissions. So he can spend a couple years learning while he's getting paid, doing a good job. So then he can go build what he wants. So I believe that a lot of kids might take a path if they're given that to where they can go down and it's almost like I told him to treat this like an internship. So let's go work. Let's work hard. Let's figure out what it's all about for a couple years, make some money, put some money aside, use that money to go do bigger, better things. So I think that that's one of the paths that we can lead our youth to is yes, college is great if that's your path, but there's other paths that will get you equally as successful. And you might be able to make money along that journey as well. So he's like working in the self-publishing world. The company does north of 10 million a year and he's doing sales development on Instagram, helping them grow that. So I think there's a lot of paths for today's youth if they want to get a career and work for a couple years while they're trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, in a weird way, like maybe this is one of, I'm not saying it's the singular moment, maybe this is one of the moments that a lot of the younger generation that aspire to create content see a fellow Zoomer that didn't just start creating content, to be fair, but put out a well done, taking an approach of a journalist and put out a long form piece of content that went extremely viral. And the proverbial can of worms has now been opened. You're seeing so many others with excerpts now that, oh, this isn't just Minnesota. I think this week we'll see. I'm not saying it's going to be all 21-year-olds or 23-year-olds or however old Nick is, but I think we'll see this week, we'll see similar exposés on probably Columbus, probably on Washington, probably on California, all the ones that have already been called out in follow up at the Nick Shirley thing. Because to having some simultaneous conversations here, but one is none of this was actually news. Like, it was in the New York Times in November and saw reports this month ago. But someone on social media did a better job reporting on it. It's my opinion. And I think the reason that people haven't been talking about this until now is it took a consumer who understands social content, understood attention and how to get it, and put out a video full of seemingly factual information. Unless the whole thing is doctored and the whole video is AI, it's hard not to pay attention to it because it was essentially sensationalized by social media. Whereas what are the traditional media outlets doing? They can see their ratings, they can see their numbers. Why aren't they doing this sort of reporting to begin with? And then, first of all, like, I'll share a post that just got shared from Pomp, who says one of the big takeaways. Let me share that as I read it, and then I'll pin it up top here in a sec. One of the big takeaways from Nick Shirley's successful video is not that mainstream media is asleep at the wheel, but rather, because a lot of people said, "Where's mainstream media?" I probably said that incorrectly this morning. They have been reporting on this stuff, but rather, YouTubers understand how to deliver information much better to the internet generation. For example, CBS has been covering the Minnesota fraud scandal for weeks. Did you read it? Probably not. Did you even know CBS or New York Times were covering it? Most likely not. I don't. Raising my hand here. I don't watch CBS News. I don't read the New York Times. It's because the packaging of information is more important than the substance of the information sometimes. The media never had to learn how to cut through the noise because they had a monopoly on distribution historically. A regular citizen couldn't take over a TV station or newspaper years ago, but now anyone with an iPhone and some free time can compete in the free market of ideas and content. Nick Shirley showed he understands how to deliver content better than mainstream media. There are thousands of others like him out there with the same skill set. The legacy media wasn't completely asleep at the wheel. They were just riding a horse rather than a Ferrari. They never stood a chance to own the story once YouTubers got the case. I recently watched, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the movie. It stars the Incredible Hulk, not as the Hulk, but the character who plays the Hulk. It's in the Boston Globe, and their journalism, their expose on the Catholic Church. Spotlight. Yes, thank you. Real journalism. I think a lot and good, like, and I'm sure that stuff is still taking place to some degree today. It doesn't seem like it because in today's world, that same, if you've seen the movie Spotlight, not to get off on that tangent, it's probably another touchy subject. Where is that happening today? And if they were to rewrite Spotlight in 2026, like, it was based on true stories, they could do it. But let's say they took the same plot line and redid it. It's not going to be in the Boston Globe. That story would be retold by way of exposing it on social media, YouTube, X, etc. Katie GM, thank you for helping me with my trivia question. I didn't know it was going to be a trivia question today. And welcome to the stage as always. Looking forward to your insight here.
Good morning. This American dream is like right in my home right now, because I have a 21-year-old senior in college and I have a freshman in college. the seniors looking to go to grad school, and the freshmen really getting into business. But one of the things that we've talked about a lot is, what are you going to do? What do you want to do? I'm very like, my husband is very old school, and he's like, you have to do this to make the money. And I am of the opposite realm, where yes, colleges were very important to me. I think they should go for even socialization. You come out of college different than you go in. I mean, there's no saying that. Isn't it expensive education for some? For sure. But I think there's definitely value. But in talking a lot with my kids and fiscal responsibility, a lot of these parents aren't setting their kids up for even traditional fiscal responsibility. Like, I have my kids in a high yield earning savings account. They have credit cards, but lots of their friends have no idea how to save money, how to budget money. I think there's like a big divide at this point. So even moving into this American dream, none of these kids have any savings to go into even putting into a house. And housing market, forget it. There's nowhere for them to go. Rent an apartment, it's expensive. I think it's a big divide at this point.
Yeah, well said. It is a big divide, and I mean, I think your kids are likely, I mean, have an edge that some may not, because they have balance in both sides of the perspective, both paths, options, and I think that's also a net positive, is not thinking like this is the way to success. In like, this may sound extreme to a younger generation. Like, when I was younger, when I started my entrepreneurial career, it was like a dirty word. Like, entrepreneurs were like not looked at favorably in the most part. It wasn't until maybe it started to shift that way a little bit when I, towards the late 2000s, like 2010. But for a while, it was like, it was not like today. It's, people have in their bio. You wouldn't have had it in your bio back then. You would have had, I don't know, a lot of people probably inflated a title of what they were doing at the job, the business they owned. But that certainly has begun shifting. And I feel today it's like the shift is complete. Like, it's, most view it as like a wise path forward. Go ahead, Katie.
Right. And I agree. And this is what the conversation I have with my kids, because I am an entrepreneur. I never realized it until I got into NFTs and crypto. I mean, I am a total entrepreneur. I've collected things over the years. And so it's been like an awakening for me. And I talk to them a lot about these things. And my husband doesn't do anything with, he doesn't have anything to do with crypto. Like I said, he's traditionalist, old school. So this is all my own thing that I talk to my own kids about. I've opened them they have like crypto wallets that they can have someday. I have their name on ETH. Like, I'm trying to expose them to these things. And my youngest is, I can see, an entrepreneur. She doesn't know it yet, but she's in business in college. So I can see that I'm at least planting that seed for her to even pursue that. But the other thing I wanted to tell you is, when we talk about AI, a lot of these schools are pushing them not to use AI. And I keep telling her to use AI. And they've had like professors ask them, what do you think about using AI in the classroom? So it's definitely a conversation to be had right now. But a lot of these kids aren't utilizing it. And I tell my kids, you have to learn how to use AI.
Yeah. Again, salute to you as a parent, because it just seems so obvious to me that those, if they're not using AI, they're falling behind. It's like we said on here. It's like AI might not take your job, but someone using AI probably is. Like, why would you not want them to use? And I understand, oh, they could cheat.
I think it's just because they don't understand how to use AI. So if they don't know how to teach it. So I think, again, there's another divide right here for these kids who are now just in school, and AI is just, it's another thing for teachers to learn or for professors to learn on top of all the other things they have to do. And that's a whole other, that's a whole other issue for me. But, it's an important time. It's a very cyclical time where people are going to have to be learning new things. It's, so.
What I'd like to ask you, not to put you on the spot, so my apologies, but same question I had earlier. Like, what let me ask you this: what do you think your kids would describe as the quote unquote American dream today?
It's interesting that you asked me that, because the other part I was going to talk about is, relationships aren't like they used to be when we were young. These kids aren't dating like we used to. They're all Snapchatting each other. They're meeting each other for the first time. It's just not the traditional get married and buy a house. So it's an interesting question. My kids really don't know. Like, they're like, I have no idea. I know I want to make money. I want to do something successful, but there's like no vision at this point of where they want to go or what they want to do. I think it's fleeting at this point.
And as a parent, kids close to the same age, that's concerning. Like, I know it's not like, oh, it's over.
It's absolutely concerning to me. Absolutely, because they just don't have those foundations that we had. And, I say the communication is lacking. They're all texting each other. They don't know how to talk to each other. It's a big issue.
Like, you could say, oh, the last version of the American dream wasn't for me. I didn't want to go work for a corporation for 40 years of my life, and my success in life be a bet on that corporation and them choosing not to lay me off when they did a restructure, and that my pension still actually be worth something when we got to that age. I didn't choose that route, but it was at least it was a viable path for many. Maybe it wasn't a viable path to wealth and financial independence, but it was a path. It was a path to home ownership. It was a path to retirement at you may think 65 is old, but and I do agree with Von Front. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's like the end is nigh when people hit retirement age after working their entire lives. Most are unhealthy and not happy, out of shape, overweight, etc. At least there was a path that did work for a lot of people. You could say the majority of people, the path worked as described. It didn't lead to extreme wealth or early financial independence, but it if the dream was, I'm summarizing here, but if the dream was home ownership and safety and security for your family, home ownership and healthcare and groceries, and they weren't going to starve, they weren't going to be out on the street, that absolutely existed. I think basic shelter and food is still absolutely exists, but I don't think that same path to what we did describe as the dream still exists. And the fact that they're just unknown, there's like, I don't even know the path. I don't know what I'm a parent. I don't know what I should tell my kids to do. I don't. That's scary.
Exactly. Same.
It's scary. Like, I have a kid that's going in, and people ask, like, what's she majoring in? Like, I don't know. And thank God she doesn't. Like, I don't want her to say, oh, this is exactly what I do with the rest of my life right now. It'd be like maybe one of the worst times in modern history to say, this is what I'm doing, and not being willing to deviate from that, because our world is changing fast. Not 5 years or 8 years from now. Like, a year from now could be extremely different as it relates to the job force and opportunities.
And that's what I say to my kids. I don't know what the jobs are going to be when you're ready to get a job, because things are changing so quickly. They're in such an influx period of things that are changing that it's hard to say. And it's hard, it's hard as a parent to be like, I don't know what to tell you. You have to pave your own path. So it's definitely difficult. It's a difficult conversation. Like my younger one will say, I want to buy a house. She's going to buy her house by herself. So at this point, she has some goals, but they just don't know. The future is so unsure at this point with all the things that are happening now that it's hard to say.
Yeah, it is hard to say. At least our parents, even if they didn't believe, and I think I genuinely, mine did believe in it. Even if they didn't believe that was the path to success, if they didn't believe that was the right, at least they could look at us with a straight face and tell us and encourage, hey, go do this thing. This is what you should be doing. And it was directionally accurate.
And if you think of in this period where these kids are watching other kids that are living in $1 million homes, they're watching this reality of kids that are their age living a totally different life than they can ever imagine. They're seeing all these people celebrate all these wins and things like that. You only see their wins. I say to them all the time, you got to take that with a grain of salt, because they're not showing you their losses or what they're doing in real life.
Yep. No, exactly right. I should have mentioned that when we were talking about the long form article we posted up top, the prison of financial mediocrity, because and he does hit on that there as well, but that just amplifies the issue. That just exaggerates the issue. Just like the fraud and corruption at government levels amplifies the issue, and maybe doesn't eliminate hope for all, but it does for some, and it mitigates hope for others. Just as it's like same thing here. It's like yeah. Go ahead.
And just one more thing just to mention. Now, this is the life, this is the world that you live in. My daughter goes to Providence College. She was a mile and a half from the shooter 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, this is her and her 9 roommates had to hole up in their house, up in the top floor, and hunker down for 2 days, not knowing that there was a shooter around. So, I mean, this is the life our kids are living.
Gives me chills. It is scary. And I'm I'm trying to not sound like choosing my words carefully as I possibly can here. I, as I've said, I'm not done. I'm not financially independent. I'm not. I'm fortunate that I don't believe I'll ever have to take a job or have to work for someone again, because not because of what my 401k, my savings, my crypto holdings are, not because of what my current net worth is, but rather my belief in myself and my ability to make money, my belief in myself and my ability to solve problems, my ability as an entrepreneur. When I see a problem, I can close the gap. And I've done that multiple times to give myself that success. I also am not, I'm so bearish on things that could get wiped out by the e-commerce giants and AI that I'm not going to go all in on one of those, one of those areas. So while I'm not like, I don't lose sleep over what the workforce looks like, what jobs look like in the next 5 to 10 years, even though there's not many scenarios where I'm not working for the next decade. I just, knock on wood, I'm hopefully working on things that are passions, and I do it because I enjoy it, not because I have to. I, I I'm glad my youngest is not starting college till next year, because she at least has some time. Like, it sounds really bad, probably, but this first time consciously having the thought out loud that she's got at least 5 years before she's got to figure this out. Like, the world's going to look a lot different in 5 years. So just go into it with flexibility in mind, and knowing that your path, your journey is likely to change many times throughout life, but even before you get out. And she is, not that anyone asked, but she is going into it right now. Her lead as that wouldn't be a major, it'd be a continuation. So her undergrad major is still TBD. She's going to wait and talk to the college counselors for guidance, but she wants to do something with pediatric physical therapy. So, physical therapy for kids, and not have to do the full med school route, not have to stay in school forever and be encumbered with as much debt, but still do something that is presumably experiential. I know, not probably the proper choice of words, but it requires human interaction for the most part. AI might likely assist and help, but at least for the next couple decades, I don't think robots are going to entirely replace doctors and physical therapists. Might help, might be a bigger part of it, but I still think there's going to be a need for human interaction there. And like I said, if not, I'm supportive of her. I'll be supportive whatever she wants to do. Even if it's something, if she says that I really want to be a paralegal, I would probably actively try to show her the downside of that risk, but I wouldn't not support her. But my long-winded rant of saying, like, I'm glad she's got 5 years, because, man, I don't know. Like, I really don't know. My oldest is an artist, so it's like things are weird, but for her life, she's done gig, whether it's uh not DoorDash, but the other one, whether it's gig work like that or bartending, doing things to bring in income while she's pursuing her passion. I think she's embraced that life in her, her path well before now, well before AI and all this other stuff. My youngest, I don't, I'm glad she's got the buffer, because I don't know. That's an awkward spot as a parent, is not having a clear, even suggestion on what your kids should do. Other than, I would double tap on what Von Frunten and Katie and Gary have either directly or indirectly said, that something entrepreneurial, something where you're in control for yourself. Probably have a day job, have a gig, have something that's not solely reliant on whatever you're building, whatever your passions are, because that's hard, and you don't want to not be able to pursue those passions because you had to go pay the bills. Much easier to continue to pursue passions because your bills are paid for by whatever job or gig you have. But even like that, even okay, you should build a business in this industry. I don't know. Like, it's just, the world is weird. And as stuff like this weekend, while it not be new information per se, I do believe it was presented in a new light. and got a lot more attention. And so for me, well, like I said, I had heard of this specifically Somalian daycare fraud for a while. I think partially due to there's a large population in Columbus, so it's just a little closer to me than maybe normal. But I wasn't, and this is wrong. I should have been upset with the fraud. It's on me. I should have said that's wrong. Someone should do something about this. But I'm not one who worries about things that I can't control, and that was one I just viewed outside my control. Clearly, wasn't outside my control. I could have done a Nick Shirley expose and drove more attention to it because that's what it needed. It didn't need pointed out. It had been pointed out in many cases. Now, is there going to be more uncovered as a result of this? Yes, absolutely. But what's, I think, for me, the difference in having loosely been aware of this sort of stuff is probably taking place, albeit I didn't imagine it to be the magnitude that it is. And not that I've seen any of the recent articles from CNBC or the New York Times, but having seen some of this stuff in the past, thinking it was like, okay, that's an issue. I just, in my naive head, I said, oh, then someone's going to take care of it now. Oh, they published an article. The local authorities, the Fed, someone's going to come in and resolve this. Someone's going to take care of this. That's the big, in a frustrating moment for me. That's the big aha moment for me, is that this stuff is not only being reported on, it's so widespread, at material amounts, and I know it also takes time. Like the Feds have an insane hit rate because they do a really buttoned up job when they choose to bring charges. Like, good luck. You ever get, sued by the Feds? It's your probably odds are better in the meme coin casino. No exaggeration. So I get it takes time to build, ironclad cases. This is earliest document was at least 2018, if not earlier. So here we are 7 years later, and it's still taking place. That's my disappointment. Is it's either negligence and just not doing proper jobs in their positions. They're just spread too thin. They're focused on other things that aren't important. This is important. Misappropriation, misuse of tax dollars is important, especially at this magnitude. So whether they're just negligent and not doing a good job, and then they should be replaced, or it's malicious and they're involved, and then they should not only be replaced, there should be real repercussions and consequences. One of the two, if not both, needs to take place. Otherwise, it's just eroding more and more trust. And I do think there's good programs. I like circling back to home ownership. Like, there's some good government assistance for first-time home buyers. That's a good thing. It's just the young. I think many are. I don't want to say giving up or losing hope. Someone said that the dream is dead. I don't think it's dead, but it's like hanging on the vine. Like, it's something needs to change soon. And I really do think so much of this stuff that's been in the news, whether mainstream media or documented with, I struggle to even say verifiable evidence now in the age of AI, because I don't think it. I think at this point, if it was AI generated, it would have been proven. Like, it would have been already been called out after 100 some million views. But that's in the range of outcomes, maybe small, but in the range of outcomes, like, none of that's real. I hate to think like that. It's just how you should think by default in today's age is, whether it's the first article that we talked about with a bank going under last night. It's probably just a rumor. It's probably not true. It's probably just engagement farming. It's easy to do that via text. A little more challenging to do it via video, but in today's world, a lot of these videos can be almost indistinguishable from actual footage. So tread with caution. I saw Blue. We got Blue come up, and then Cool Chick Blue GM. Welcome to the stage.
Hey, GM. I was going to comment on the college piece. I have a 19-year-old, and he's a phenomenal artist. Phenomenal artist. He got to do a couple of things with different NFT projects just in our space. And now he's in college. I'm paying the bill, but I don't know what I'm paying for. Because honestly, it's like, you have to know what AI is. You have to know either how to prompt or you have to figure out how you're going to wire it in the background, or have something where it's kind of like not centralized and you're just doing your own thing. But it's quite challenging and scary, especially for the field he's in. When I was younger, I was an artist and everybody pushed me to architecture because they're like, you'll be able to survive and pay and live. And architecture is like 90% math, and kind of just like redoing old properties. Um, and it's just like, what are they going to school for? When very simple to DoorDash here in Georgia, there's a lot of little robots driving around delivering people's food, not humans. Waymos are driving, so there goes the Uber guys. And so it's just like it's very challenging. And a lot of the universities across the United States are not equipped for this type of technology. There's maybe 3 schools that are really focused on AI and crypto. And it's like some of the schools' information are kind of behind, and some are kind of trying to figure it out. But 90% of what's going on, most of these kids or young adults, their jobs are going to be replaced. Um, like Amazon is about to release a fully functional robot delivering, your packages. So, I mean, in Florida, there's AI like trucks, little AI police trucks that are being like um started and branched there. So it's very, very scary. Um, but also just thank God, like our kids have us that are in this field to kind of be able to tell them, hey, this is what's going on, because half of our country doesn't know what the other options are. And if heaven forbid you have like resources or family that doesn't know anything about technology or what's happening. Um, so yeah, it's something to really try to figure out and serve through, because it's like, what am I paying for?
Yeah, good question. But I think just in asking the question, you're probably ahead of most. Versus, and I'm not taking any shots at any parents if you're putting your kids through school. Respect. I just, at least you're not doing so blindly, thinking that, oh, whatever, they're going to get their degree and then they're going to immediately get a job and they're going to be set. Like that is, at least you're thinking critically about it, and even not having the answer or not knowing. Um, we're going to go cool chick next. Before I want to read a couple comments in the chat. Bochin says, as someone working with college students for the past 6 years, it's vastly different what the goals and mindsets are from when I graduated college. All I can do is be better than the system that hasn't adapted to the current state of the world and bring in life experiences and real world understanding to those willing to listen before they graduate. Salute to you as well. Yeah, you can't even tell them to put their head down and work anymore, as the current jobs are not what the future is going to be. You're likely right. Says some of the smartest people, or some of the smartest things to tell your kids, is to learn finance and computers, and that they will always have access to financial freedom through that route. Other jobs that are hands on and need human back and forth and talk, eye doctors, medicines, will also be no AI takeover type jobs. I, yes, I agree to some degree. I do think there is. I think we're a ways off before they're all replaced, but I think even a lot of jobs that, I mean, I was in on the 26th last week. I was in a doctor's office with my same daughter. She had a small fracture in her finger. She's doing fine. She got a brace off, her splint off, so she's excited about that. Um, I think we were there for 2 hours, and we talked to the doctor for maybe 3 minutes. There was an X-ray involved, so there was a little bit of time back and forth, but that was less than 5 minutes, start to finish. I don't know. Maybe IA can't make that system more efficient, but I have a hard time believing it can't. I'm not saying it's replacing doctors. I think I have no expectations of the future other than it's going to be very different. And I do think things like robots are going to play a big role. AI is going to play a big role. I said last week, for the first time, thinking about stopping any DCA on Tesla stock and looking to buy a second Tesla in 2026, making that part of the goal, the financial goal for next year. Not because I need another car, but if we do actually achieve not just full self-driving unsupervised, but the robo-taxi model, I agree. I think you're right. I think the robo-taxis will replace a lot of Uber drivers. I would rather today, right now in this current version, I would much rather drive in a full self-driving Tesla, have it drive for me, than drive in a random Uber driver that I have no idea their background or their driving record. I'm not having like close calls in Ubers, but it's random. Roll the dice. Putting my life at the hand of a stranger who's not really, other than their state driver's license test, hasn't really, proven to anyone that they're a good driver. Different change is the only thing I'm certain of, and I just think the rate of change, even though I'm certain of change, I think I'm probably even also underestimating the rate of change. So it's what we do know is, well, we don't know this. I believe that communicating, speaking without substituting your own thought with the LLM, meaning not saying you don't ever use AI to help you proofread or craft something or get the thumbnail for the video you just cut. I do believe that I actually think unique, original human thought becomes increasingly valuable as more and more AI proliferates the timelines in the social feeds. I also think in real life experiences, experiential retail, you might have heard me say once or twice on this show, become increasingly important as our world becomes more online, more connected digitally. I think those things, those areas, now it's hard. Like, I'm not saying go open up a retail store, because you open a retail store selling widgets, you're DOA. Like, you're not only you probably never make profits a single month. Like, as soon as you do, if you hit it big, especially, someone's going to start up an Amazon fulfillment store and take both your legs out from under you, because they've got far less overhead and they're delivering the same product, if not better, same day or next day. Like, it's just like, it's not retail, but I think the human interaction, experiential experiences and shopping and content that is challenging to create without a human original thought, I think that wins. It's just hard to package that in a prescriptive, here's the steps to success in the new society, in the new American dream, that you do this, this, and this, and you're guaranteed this. Like, and maybe this is a good thing, that there is no seemingly a guarantee, just like the old one wasn't a guarantee, but it did work for a lot of people. It just had a ceiling. I think maybe this isn't the worst thing, that we don't have a prescriptive path to success at this age. And maybe that means more, not just younger generation, more people, more humans choose to pursue things that they're passionate about, choose to do things that enable their time freedom. That's not a negative. That's a big positive, in my opinion. For someone who is long degeneracy, someone who is in the crypto streets, the sports betting streets, I don't think most people should be in this. Like, it's not, most people will be net losers. I like to think I have an edge in most things I do. I don't in all. I certainly don't. And I'm self-aware enough to realize that, but it's still fun. And if I don't have a edge that I'm confident in, I just throw it on my volume to something that I am okay if it goes to zero. I've also been in these streets for 2 decades and learned my tuition was in the form of some L's or round trips. And that's, again, I hope there's many, many more alternatives than just the casino as we shift. We lost Cool Chick. Cool Chick, if you want to get back up here, my apologies. Was going to go to you next to take us home. But no pressure, no obligation if you can't make it back up. We'll do this while I wait, though. We'll see if Cool Chick wants to join us. and then I will I'll get you all out of here, send you on your way. As I do that, though, quick reset. If you've not yet grabbed the holiday badge, go do that now. Get some fire art. Maybe some goodies come from it. Don't minute for the expectation of goodies. Just go minute for some fun art, courtesy of Imlo, and show that you were here throughout the holidays when a lot of people checked out. That is pinned up top. You can also just go directly to op.xyz/claim and code CWC holiday. Old Hatter adds, if you don't think big tech companies are coming for all the jobs, you're not looking enough moves down the line. They may attempt to come for all the jobs. I just think that humans will still, I think today, many of them still appreciate human interaction. Just look at the how much negativity there is towards AI slop in the comments. And pretty much all AI gets labeled as AI slop now. Because you've identified it as that's AI. Like there was I'm not going to single him out because he's on the stage. There was another article shared that, and it was fine. It was fine. It was a fine article. Pretty sure it was AI generated. Which again, it's okay. It could have been the poster's original thought that he copied into an LLM and had them refine it and craft it. Again, it's fine. It's okay. Most meet it with a negative interaction, if not outright vitriol and disgust, or ignore. A lot just ignore. If it tips them off that it's AI, many will just ignore it and not go a step further. To me, that's enough of a proof of concept or enough of a proof point that human to human interaction is still very much so desired. And I think as this stuff gets harder to distinguish, what's AI, what's human, because that's going to change. Like I'm surprised it hasn't already, but in 2026, you probably see the M dash eliminated from all AI responses because everyone knows if it's got an M dash or two in there, it's most likely generated by an LLM. It's the if this isn't this is that statement, that's become another telltale sign of AI. It's just if you're in there every day, there's certain language that it uses. It's going to get better. It's going to evolve. This is the worst it'll ever be, presumably for most models, and people won't be able to, that'll be limited. It'll be harder and harder to tell. Therefore, I think once that happens, even more people are going to seek out the human to human interaction, seek out the third place that's not work or home, someplace they can interact with other human beings in real life, not in a metaverse. Cool chick, welcome back to the stage. GM, take it whichever direction you like, and then we'll get everyone out of here.
GM, I'm feeling like super blessed listening to some of the comments about kids in college and careers. My daughter is 24. In May will make 2 years since she graduated college with honors. And she has wanted to be a veterinarian since I can remember. Like, I don't ever remember her wanting to be anything else. And I guess maybe 3 months after she graduated, she got a job with a veterinarian, and she's been a vet tech since. Um, she's trying to go on to further her education to be a veterinarian, but we'll see what happens. There's no veterinarian schools in our area, so it's an out of state option, which is really super difficult to get into. But I cannot get her into crypto. Like, I've tried so many times, and her minor was art, so she loves art, but she still doesn't really like the whole NFTs, or she just don't want anything to do with crypto. But I trade stocks a little here and there, and a few months ago, she showed me her portfolio. She had actually got on Cash App and been buying stocks like I had showed her. And she has a better portfolio than I do, like 10 times better. So I was so proud that, she had actually listened to something that I had said and, bought stocks. But she's like, we're kind of night and day. She has to do it on her own terms. She doesn't want to follow my footsteps, which I'm glad. But, I would love to get her into crypto just a little bit. But seeing her in stocks, that was like, really really made me happy, and that she had actually listened to a little something I had said. So, but it is difficult. I think that, like, the kids nowadays, like, everything's so different. Like, there's no parties that you go to. Everyone talks to each other through a phone. We didn't have, cell phones until I was like a little older. So it was like when we were younger, we had to go track our friends down. You had to go get out and drive and find them. That's like driving. She didn't even want her license until, like, I think it was her last year of college. She finally got her driver's license. But now she drives everywhere. But it's just different. It's a different time, and she never mentions AI. Like, I don't even know if she messes with AI at all.
Well, appreciate you sharing, and again, congrats on the parenting because ahead of most, and you nailed it. Like it's got to be on their terms. There's not one right or wrong, but expose them to options. You showed her crypto. You talked about NFTs. You talked about stocks. She chose to go that route, and it sounds like she's hit some W's. And once she's hit a few W's, like there's confidence growth, she can continue to do that. And it's I am hopeful that more of the younger generation also still continues to invest in TradFi, continue to invest in equity stock, and I think they are. While we want to talk long degeneracy and the casinos. I mean, that's another version of a casino, but it's a little more proven and has a track record and strong history over time, especially if they're not talking penny stocks, but rather blue chips, Mag 7, or even just S&P 500. Over you zoom out, it should be a wise investment. I think it'll turn a lot of the younger generation off because they're not going to turn $100 into 100 grand overnight, and they're probably not going to do that in sports betting or DFS or meme coins either, but there's a path to doing so there. They've seen others do it, unfortunately, way out of line with what's real if they're viewing their social media. To your point, in all these areas, you see people posting their wins, not their L's. Even some that post big wins, they're still down because they took more L's to get there. They're always chasing that one up, or the 100x, the 1000x, the 10,000x, that is just not realistic in traditional equities, but still a very, I would say, better than savings account. Doesn't matter what interest rate or if any they're getting on their savings account at their traditional bank. At least showing them all these other options, and then it's got to be on their terms, their time, and maybe they come around to some of the others at a later date. But educate them, let them know what's out there, and I'll reiterate, maybe not having what is a consensus prescriptive path to success is a good thing. It might actually encourage people to pursue their passions. If they want to be a vet, go be a vet. It's awesome. Is one of the options on my youngest as well. Big love of animals, and I do think that's one. I think AI will help. I think it'll help make doctors more efficient and effective. I think same thing in the world of veterinary medicine. But I still think there'll be that desire to interact with the human, at least for a while. Good show today. Little atypical show, but wanted to stick with the theme of being authentic and genuine. And this one over the weekend, and like I said, the news is very disappointing, disgusting. I think it's even more discouraging and disappointing that we haven't seen any action or very little action from the powers that be. And while traditional media has, a couple at least, have ran with the news, not done so in a way that garners attention from the masses. In a journalistic approach, in this case by way of video, like just really well done. And I get that we could defend, oh well, I don't know. I really am struggling coming up with a defense of all of them, because you would think at least one of them would have been to this Somalian daycare fraud story, as was the Boston Globe was to Spotlight. Is that right, Katie? The Spotlight. Yeah, the Spotlight was the division of the Boston Globe that was researchers, the ones that were like the hardcore journalists who went out there and uncovered stories. I'll go back and read the other news articles that have been published on this. They kind of missed the mark, or they didn't double down. They weren't a spotlight of their respective organizations enough to where they got the attention of the masses. And the fact that this stuff has been known for so long and there's not been, I don't think, proper action taken, it's disappointing. Hopefully it drives change. Hopefully one of those positive changes, it does inspire more Nick Shirley's. Inspires one of him in every city and helps get this stuff cleaned up. Again, however you think about the reporting of this, however you think it's been handled, I hope we can all agree it's fraud and corruption is not good, and it would be a net positive to get it, if not eliminated, at least addressed and mitigated, and instill in the public some confidence that they're not being, that the crime, the corruption is not being, not turned a blind eye to, or certainly not aiding and participating. Like right now, I think that is a massive, there's a big gap there in terms of the confidence and trust. And that, I don't think that's a good thing for many reasons, but a lot of went all directions this morning. We will be a little more succinct tomorrow, a little more data driven, and a little more focused on crypto and Web3 specific topics. Outer Lumen is going to be joining me again on Tuesday. The link is pinned up top. If you haven't yet done so, go hit that reminder. I would appreciate it as we play everyone out. Big thanks to Von Frunton and Cool Chick and Blue and Teacher Katie and Gary, Poppy. Appreciate everyone who jumped up on stage and shared their thoughts on this. Help me think through some things. And while this wasn't like what should we be minting today, it very much was at the core of Coffee with Captain when this show started 1,062 episodes ago. It was what happened last night, what happened over the weekend. That's on my mind. I don't want to go read 18 discords or 10 articles on this. Let's talk through it. And it was helpful talking through this morning. It was probably going to weigh on my mind a good chunk of the day. Now I feel like I said my piece, was able to talk through it, and go on to have a productive Monday, as I hope all of you will as well. We'll be back tomorrow. See y'all then at 8 a.m. Eastern time. And as Steve would say, hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks for tuning into Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin. We hope you enjoyed the show, and remember, nothing we discussed today is financial advice. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Welcome to the future.